Hey there, Neutron Tech crew, we're catching up with Marc and Sandy again. You know, that incredible duo who transform forgotten spaces into stunning homes with nothing but determination and power tools. Their latest adventure takes them to a forsaken property in the quiet town of Chambord, France, where they're about to breathe life into what most people would write off as a lost cause. Walking through the entrance for the first time, you'd understand why locals had given up on this place. Every surface told a story of abandonment. Floors buckled and cracked from moisture damage, walls stained with mysterious patches that mapped out decades of water infiltration, and fixtures that hadn't functioned since who knows when. The bathroom? Let's just say it was the stuff of renovation nightmares, featuring crumbling tiles that seemed held together by sheer stubbornness. But here's the thing about Marc and Sandy. They don't see disasters, they see diamonds in the rough. Where others spotted crumbling walls, they noticed solid bones and robust construction that had survived decades of punishment. This wasn't just another flip for them, it was a chance to rescue something meaningful. Getting started meant playing it smart with structural integrity. You can't just start swinging hammers when load-bearing elements are involved. They brought in heavy-duty metal supports, positioning them strategically to carry the weight while critical walls came down. Marc fired up his angle grinder, methodically removing corroded sections and compromised materials that had no business staying in the structure. Next came the foundation work for their replacement wall, a process that starts with pouring and leveling fresh concrete to create a rock-solid base. After letting it cure properly and checking every measurement twice, they started stacking concrete blocks with practiced efficiency. That laser level became their best friend, constantly checking that every course stayed true and plumb. The vertical framework demanded its own special attention, with Marc and Sandy selecting timber beams that would carry serious weight for years to come. Every piece got the full treatment, precise measurements, clean cuts with the circular saw, then thorough sanding to remove splinters and rough spots. The floor situation required serious intervention. Those old tiles weren't just ugly, they were actively failing, with edges lifted and surfaces that had seen better days sometime in the last century. The game changer arrived in buckets of self-leveling compound, that magical mixture that flows like water but hardens into a perfectly flat surface, erasing years of damage and creating the ideal foundation for whatever flooring they'd choose later. Transforming that disaster of a bathroom meant building from scratch, starting with a completely new layout that actually made sense. Armed with their trusty laser levels, they mapped out exact positions for steel frame sections that would define the new space. These weren't just slapped up either. Each frame got secured with heavy-duty polyurethane adhesive that bonds like nobody's business, plus mechanical fasteners drilled deep into both floor and ceiling structures. For keeping things comfortable year-round, they went with ice-over glass wool, the good stuff that blocks sound and keeps temperatures steady, whether it's freezing outside or scorching hot. Each section got custom cut to slide perfectly between those steel studs, with Marc and Sandy taking extra care to compress it just right without creating voids. Now comes the drywall installation, and honestly, it's more complex than most people think. Marc and Sandy select panels specifically engineered to resist moisture damage, then spend considerable time measuring and trimming each sheet to fit perfectly against the newly insulated framework. These sheets aren't light. Hoisting them into position requires both strength and coordination, which is exactly what this duo brings to the table. When they reach the ceiling, a specialized lifting device becomes absolutely necessary. Next up is the detail work that separates amateur jobs from professional-looking results. Every seam where two drywall panels meet gets covered with paper tape, then layered with joint compound until you can't tell where one sheet ends and another begins. They'll sand these areas down repeatedly, creating a surface so smooth you'd never know there were separate panels underneath. Material selection matters tremendously in this phase, particularly for panels going anywhere near that window. Moisture from condensation and temperature swings can wreak havoc on standard drywall, so they're using premium moisture-resistant versions instead. The joint compound they've chosen sets up quickly, which means they can complete multiple layers of application and sanding all in one day instead of waiting around. You'll notice the electrical wiring threading through the steel studs running safely behind where the drywall and insulation will cover it. Meanwhile, Marc and Sandy work their way systematically across every wall surface, mounting panel after panel. These sheets come in standard sizes that make them surprisingly manageable. After everything's mounted, what you get is a continuous, uninterrupted wall surface that's ready for whatever finish they want to apply. That clean, modern look they're going for? This smooth foundation makes it possible, but there's more to it than aesthetics. The gypsum core inside these panels actually provides serious fire resistance. With the panels secured, they move on to addressing every imperfection visible across the wall surfaces, filling gaps, smoothing joints, and perfecting edges with layers of putty. When painting finally begins, the entire atmosphere of this space is going to shift dramatically. But you can't just slap paint on raw drywall and expect good results. Preparation is absolutely critical. Before a single drop of color goes on, those fresh drywall surfaces need to be properly primed and ready. They coat everything, both the new drywall and those wood surfaces, with premium white primer. This isn't just busy work. Primer creates a sealed barrier over the porous drywall, stopping the finished paint from soaking in unevenly and creating blotchy spots. You can actually see how it gives the surface a uniform base. Next up comes wall painting, and they're starting smart with a soft gray base coat that goes on super thin and smooth. Here's the thing, this layer isn't just for show, it actually helps the top coat stick better and smooths out those little bumps and imperfections you'd never notice until the light hits them wrong. Hold on though, before slapping on more paint, there's something else that needs to happen first. Time to bring some texture and dimension into this space. These wooden rods are going up to create a clear separation between the entryway and the rest of the house, making it feel like its own little zone. They measure and cut each rod to match perfectly, then secure them with seriously strong adhesive so they become part of the wall itself. Now comes the delicate part, positioning those LED strips so they stay completely hidden from view. They carefully attach them in the gaps between the wooden rods. Now the ceiling and those exposed beams get their moment. This transformation is pretty dramatic, honestly. Every beam and ceiling plank gets coated in bright white paint, and they're using smaller brushes to get into all the details without making a mess. Painting the ceiling white is a smart move because it makes the room feel taller and more open. Your eyes naturally travel upward, and suddenly those wooden beams don't feel heavy anymore, they feel intentional. Case in point, these mirrors they're adding now. The mirrors bring in some color while making the entrance feel way deeper than it actually is. Pair them with those varnished wood frames against the white walls, and suddenly they look like high-end artwork hanging in a gallery. See how it all comes together? The wooden mirror frames echo that LED-lit wooden rod detail, creating this really cohesive look. Then there's this black panel they've built. And when I say built, I mean they constructed and painted it until it looks absolutely perfect. You might have been curious about something earlier. How exactly did they anchor those wooden beams we saw at the start? Well, they break out the electric drill and carefully bore holes straight through each beam, down into the wooden platform underneath. After the beams are locked in place and stable, They run a bead of sealant along the bottom where beam meets platform. Now that the column bases have fully dried and set, it's finally time to varnish that wood and really make it pop visually. So the downstairs is pretty much wrapped up, which means one thing, it's finally upstairs' turn to get some love. They're dealing with the wallpaper situation first, and let's be honest, stripping old wallpaper is nobody's idea of a good time, but it has to be done if you want a decent surface to work with. Here's the thing about old wallpaper, it basically becomes one with the wall over time. Once they're ready to paint, rollers become their best friend for getting through the large areas fast, but they switch to smaller brushes when they hit those tricky spots. Think corners, trim, and anywhere the roller just won't reach properly. Next up on the agenda, those unsightly fuse boxes need to go into hiding. They decide wooden casings are the way to go. They grab some light-colored, untreated pine boards that look great naturally and are super easy to cut and shape. Now it's floor time. They're prepping the surface for parquet installation, which means a good polishing session. To get everything perfectly aligned and level when laying the tiles down, they're using tile spacers and those handy leveling clips, basically insurance against wonky grout lines and that annoying thing where one tile sticks up higher than its neighbor. They take that same careful method and apply it to finishing the divider wall. Working with wooden columns paired with brick elements, grouting comes next. This is where they pack all those spaces between the tiles with grout, which both seals everything up and makes it all look like one unified surface. The kitchen sits right by the entrance, and the whole setup is designed around making it actually work well rather than just looking pretty, though it manages both. Everything flows along one wall in a straight line, which is super practical. The countertop height hits that sweet spot where you can work comfortably without hunching over or reaching up awkwardly. There's plenty of real estate for chopping, mixing, and all the usual food prep activities. The sink they picked out screams contemporary style, clean lines, minimal fuss, totally in sync with the kitchen's overall modern aesthetic. Time for the backsplash, which does double duty, keeps the walls safe from water and cooking splatter while also adding a nice visual touch. They choose tiles in soft neutral territory, whites, beiges, or pale grays that give off that timeless, clean appearance and blend right in with everything else. Depending on whether they go glossy or matte, the tiles catch and bounce light around, which makes the kitchen feel brighter and more spacious than it actually is. Marc and Sandy have crafted something special here. A style that walks the line between sleek contemporary vibes and those warm old-school touches you'd find in a farmhouse. Every material they've picked tells that story. Take the kitchen, which has basically become the star of this whole renovation. They've tiled the backsplash with these gorgeous refined pieces that do double duty. They look stunning and can handle whatever you throw at them. Then there are the wooden counters, which keep that earthy, organic feeling running through the space and anchor all those modern touches back to something more timeless. What started this whole thing wasn't just Marc and Sandy wanting to fix up some forgotten old house. This was really about taking something that had been sitting there deteriorating and pumping new energy into it, making it matter again. Both of them love getting their hands dirty and actually building things, so they saw this as their chance to create a space that works beautifully and doesn't trash the planet in the process. That said, they're not finished yet. Not by a long shot. The bathroom needed serious attention, so they went with ceramic tiles in soft neutral shades and kept the finish matte, which really opens up the room and makes it feel bigger. They mapped out where everything should go with a lot of thought, making sure the whole thing flows well and doesn't waste an inch of space. They've circled back to working on the laminate flooring now, using exactly the same techniques we watched them nail earlier. They're smart enough to leave gaps along the perimeter. Those little spaces let the wood expand and contract when humidity and temperature shift with the seasons. With the floor fully down and swept clean, Marc and Sandy move on to the finishing touches for the walls. Next up is tackling the upper section, and finishing this is going to be the final piece of what's been an absolutely stunning transformation inside this house. They begin by mounting metal studs that'll create a rock-solid skeleton for everything else. Keeping lines perfectly straight is crucial, so they rely heavily on laser levels, a tool that's been a game-changer for them throughout this entire build. With the metal structure locked in place, they tuck insulation carefully into the spaces between each stud, making sure nothing gets missed. Here's something interesting you might notice. The bathroom and the toilet are in completely separate rooms. This isn't some random design choice. It actually goes way back to the early 1900s, when indoor plumbing was finally becoming standard in houses. Back then, people thought about bathrooms as places for cleaning yourself up, washing, bathing, that sort of thing. When it came to this particular bathroom, figuring out where the tub should go was absolutely crucial. Marc and Sandy weren't just thinking about aesthetics, they strategically positioned it close to where the main water line already existed. Smart move really, because it kept the plumbing work straightforward and the budget in check. Once that was sorted, the ceiling got a fresh coat of paint, and they put up wallpaper to give it some personality. They basically took the same approach they'd used downstairs, painting everything, sanitizing every surface, making sure it was all clean and ready. Choosing the right flooring was another one of those make-or-break decisions that would really define how the space looked and held up over time. They went with laminate planks in this soft, natural wood shade that played beautifully against those darker exposed beams running across the ceiling. Marc and Sandy worked through each board, one by one, measuring and cutting precisely, then clicking them together until the whole floor came together without a single visible seam. Getting back to the bathroom work, Marc and Sandy knew the prep work before laying any tiles would make or break the whole project. They started by mounting moisture-resistant plasterboard across all the walls, creating that essential water-resistant foundation you absolutely need in a bathroom environment. For the tiles themselves, they picked ceramic ones in neutral shades with this understated matte texture that really helps the space feel brighter and more open. Here's something worth pointing out. They didn't just tile flat surfaces. Built-in recesses were carved directly into the bathroom walls and tiled right along with everything else. At this point, everything major was done, which meant it was time to focus on those finishing touches that really pull a space together. If you look at their furniture selections throughout the house, you'll notice Marc and Sandy clearly have a thing for natural materials, specifically wood, which shows up pretty much everywhere. The bathroom needed one more round of attention, specifically caulking around all the wet areas to keep moisture from sneaking into places it shouldn't. Meanwhile, outside work was happening too. Any roof tiles that had seen better days got swapped out for new ones. The exterior walls got a serious deep clean, stripping away years' worth of accumulated grime, moss, and general weathering until the original wall texture emerged from underneath. For the exterior color scheme, they landed on a pale, neutral shade that echoes the white and wood palette they'd established inside the house. That fresh paint brought the whole exterior into the current century, while still keeping things understated and timeless. Standing back and looking at it now, you'd think this house just rolled off the assembly line yesterday. Marc and Sandy didn't try to erase what this building used to be. Instead, they breathed new life into it and gave it another shot at being useful. If you'd seen what this place looked like when they started, you honestly wouldn't believe it's the same building. But calling this project just a technical success would be selling it short. What they've really accomplished here runs deeper than good craftsmanship. This property went from being a fragmented mess that nobody could use to becoming this unified, purposeful space that actually makes sense.